Hello, everyone. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and I'm back with another review. It took me a while to get around to this one, and yeah, I picked this Blu-ray up for, believe it or not, only $2 in a pawn shop. And the reason why, I'm sorry, but the movie we're talking about here is Showgirls. Okay, we'll get around to that in just a minute. We'll talk about the shocking, titillating, glittery, and gleefully vulgar cult film. But yeah, I mean, I found this Blu-ray in a pawn shop, and I only paid like $2 for it, and I was surprised that I got it for that cheap. And the reason why, I ended up having to get this. I did have this movie on DVD way back when. I had like a kind of like a collector's edition DVD of it, but yeah, believe it or not, of all the people, my ex-girlfriend, she ended up. There was something about this movie that she just really liked. She really latched onto this movie. I don't know if she had dreams of becoming a Vegas showgirl or something like that, or maybe it was the story or something. I don't know, but this was a movie she latched onto, and she watched this movie over and over and over again. This is one of those movies like I didn't mind it, but now I don't really watch it much anymore because she burned me out on it. So I hardly ever watch this movie anymore. But I was like, nah, still a little nostalgic for us. Kind of cool. Besides, it was only $2, so I grabbed it. But yeah, I had this on DVD. I watched it, a couple of times, and I didn't mind it. I never thought it was a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, but she just watched it over and over and over again, and she ruined my DVD. It's like when we broke up, she tried to take it. For one thing, she tried to, she tried to get what she could from me and everything, and the DVD for this movie was one of the things she really tried to take. And when I got it back, it was so smudged and scratched up and ruined and everything else. It's like she couldn't handle DVDs for shit, to be honest with you. So anyway, so pretty much I just had to get rid of it for a while, and then when I came across this, and it's like, what, I'll get it. And then just a little bit over time, this movie, I've been getting the urge to want to talk about it. And um so yeah, let's go ahead and we'll discuss it now. Pretty much the movie stars Elizabeth Berkley here. Hang on just a second. There we go. Yep, stars Elizabeth Berkley here, and it was very controversial when she took this role because at the time the only thing anybody really knew her from was the show Saved by the Bell, and on that show she played this very prim and proper, um, kind of very book smart kind of girl, and just kind of a goody two shoes type, and everything else very studious kind of girl and everything else. So this role was definitely a real departure from that. I mean, that was kind of like the same thing like what would happen years later, like when Miley Cyrus would get out of Hannah Montana and then go, basically play with herself on stage while she's singing and stuff like that. But so yeah, so Elizabeth Berkley here, she stars as Nomi. She's a drifter, and she's just kind of hitchhiking along and everything, and she gets picked up on the side of the road by this guy, and this guy ends up pretty much robbing her, taking her, taking her money, taking her luggage, everything she's got. So she comes into Vegas and she's got nothing, and she ends up getting, lives in a trailer with a roommate who she works as like a kind of like a costume designer type of thing, and or costume type person. And so she ends up getting a job basically working as a stripper, so hence she's working the pole there and stuff like that. But basically she has dreams of becoming a real Vegas showgirl, and she sees this basically kind of real like her real idol is this girl named Crystal, who is basically one of the biggest showgirls in all of Las Vegas, and she's played here by Gina Gershon. And so she's working her way as a stripper and things like that, and um, at one point, Gina Gershon and Kyle MacLachlan, we remember him from like Blue Velvet and everything else. They come in, they start seeing her, and so Gina Gershon's character Crystal is like trying to put the moves on her, and basically she's trying to seduce Nomi, but Nomi's not interested in her that way, and she's kind of more interested in Kyle MacLachlan's character and everything else. And so then we enter in another character played by Glenn Plummer, who he was in Saw 2. He's been in a lot of other movies too. And, he's, basically trying to sweet talk her into doing a dance, um, trying to talk her into doing a dance show with him and everything else. And, but at one point, so like, Gina Gershon and Kyle MacLachlan, they come to this strip club where she's working at, and the owner of the club is Robert Davi. We all remember him from like the Maniac Cops 2 and 3, and Die Hard, so many movies. He's a well-known character actor. And at one point, they tell Nomi that they'll pay for her to do you know sorry pay for her to do a lap dance and everything else. Well, at first, Crystal wants her to do a lap dance on both of them. And Nomi is like, no, I'm not doing that. And says, well, just do, she's like, okay, well, just do him, and I'll watch and everything else. And so, Nomi's like, okay, but, they're, they offer to pay her 500, and she's like, she still doesn't want to take the money, but Robert Davi, pushes her into it. And so she goes and she does she goes and does the lap dance, and it's, very, pretty sexy, pretty erotic and everything else. And it's probably about the most erotic scene in the entire movie. So that's kind of like the real juiciest scene in the whole film. So anyway, so she goes and you know she takes the money. She goes and buys her a new dress and everything else, and then she finds out that she's going to get an audition and all this other kind of stuff. And so she's happy, and Kyle MacLachlan is really pulling for her to get and so she goes in, she's doing the audition and everything. And the guy who's running the audition is a real prick. And he's, like telling him, do this, move this way, dance like this, all this other kind of stuff. And at one point, he goes up to her, tells her, like, take these ice cubes and ice up your nipples and all this other kind of stuff. And, in the meanwhile, too, also, she's, meeting Glenn Plummer's character, and they're talking about doing this show together. And so anyway so he's trying to get her to be with him and all this other kind of stuff, and she doesn't want to. And she ends up getting picked for this show and everything. But she's not really happy about it, because she doesn't know if it's Kyle MacLachlan's character pulling for her, or she doesn't know if it's Crystal who wants her to be in the show or whatever. But finally they kind of she just kind of accepts the fact she's going to be a showgirl and everything else. And so she's she's doing the routines and stuff. She's learning the moves, and they're preparing for a show and everything else, even to the point she becomes Crystal's understudy and all this stuff. And Crystal takes her out and really tries to bond with her. And and she's telling about like we take the cash, we cash the checks, we show them what they want to see, all this other kind of stuff. And everything starts to work out pretty well. And even at one point, but the thing is like Nomi starts to become a very greedy character, and she decides that she doesn't want to just appear in the show. She wants to become the star of the show. And she's trying to figure out, how do I become star of the show? Well, the only it's like, well, the problem is Crystal is the star of the show. So what she ends up having to do is, if she wants to be the star of the show, she has to take out Crystal. So anyway, so they're doing the show and everything else, and Crystal senses that Nomi is trying to take her place on the show and everything else. So ultimately, Nomi decides she's going to take Crystal out. So she knocks her down and basically, pretty much breaks her leg, and she's out of the show. And then as her understudy, Nomi gets to take the show. But the problem is like, the people closest to Nomi know that she knocked Crystal down, and that, she basically rigged it so she could get the lead role in the show. And, so like her friend, the roommate that she's living with, she knows, and she's not very happy about it and everything else. But at the moment, Nomi's like, well, I can't be bothered with that stuff. I'm the star of the show and everything else. So her and Kyle MacLachlan, they go out and they're partying and everything else, and he's driving through Vegas in this really fast car, and basically they decide to go back to his place. And what ends up happening is easily the most ridiculous sex scene in the entire history of motion pictures. I think, pretty much everybody who, has seen this movie, they know what I'm talking about. It's so, so weird how this sex scene plays out because they get into a pool and it's like they're kind of doing this little kind of like almost like, stalking each other in the pool kind of a thing. And then, they start getting into it and she just Nomi just starts flipping and flailing around like she is just having the biggest epileptic seizure of anybody in history. I mean, she is just going nuts. I mean, she's just flipping and flailing around all over the place and everything else. And then, the scene ends and then, so, but anyway, though, so she's not doing too well with her roommate and everybody else is kind of, you know, getting pissed at her and all this other kind of stuff. And she's doing she's doing the shows and everything else, but she realizes kind of like she's losing everything. She's losing her friends. She's losing her identity, the person that she is. She's, not very happy with what's going on. And she starts to see that, like this place, this place is really going to chew you up and spit you out. And it all culminates really when her roommate, decides she wants to go. There's this singer that's coming to Vegas, and her roommate really wants to see this guy, and she's really, really digging this guy. She really wants to, go and watch him perform and everything, and she'd like to go and party with him and all this other kind of stuff. So the guy comes to town and everything. He takes Nomi's roommate and takes her back to his place, and basically he assaults and rapes her and beats the poor girl within an inch of her life. And so, so Nomi decides that, that's not going to fly with her. So she is going to end up, sorry, another Elizabeth Berkley picture for you there. So she decides that she's not going to put up with that sort of thing. And so she goes and, she takes, revenge on this guy, and she ends up just literally beating the ever loving shit out of him, damn near kills him. And so, at first she goes to Kyle MacLachlan's character and asks him to do something about it. But he's just like, oh, well, whatever, I don't care. Hey, sweetheart, you girls are a dime a dozen and all this. And, like I said, she pretty much decides she's done with the whole thing. And she wants to go back to being the person she was. And she doesn't like what Vegas has done to her. She doesn't like, the way people treat each other here. She doesn't like, the things that they do to each other and all this other kind of stuff. And, so she's about ready to head on her way out. So she stops and visits Crystal at the hospital here. Whoop, sorry. She goes and visits Crystal here, and she's about on her way out of town. And she's telling her, yeah, I just realized I couldn't do this. And, and she's like, I do actually feel bad for hurting you. And she's like, yeah, I know you do, darling. And, it's like, I understood, it's like, I was as, when I first got here, I was as hungry as you to get ahead and do what I had to do, didn't matter who I stepped on and everything else. And, so she's like, yeah, I wasn't very happy about it either. And so, Nomi's getting ready to leave, and Crystal asks her, please just let me have one kiss. I was like, just, one kiss. That's the only thing I'm asking. So Nomi does, finally, give in and give Crystal a nice, sweet goodbye kiss and everything else. And you can see that Crystal's actually kind of, upset that, Nomi's leaving, and, they're not going to, that she couldn't sway her to her side and everything else. But so anyway, so Nomi's leaving Vegas, and, she's hitchhiking again, and, truck pulls up. Great, she's got a ride. She goes, gets in the truck, and realizes it's the guy from the beginning of the movie who ended up robbing her and taking her money and everything else. And so she's going to get payback on this guy. And so you see, like, as they're leaving Vegas and everything, you see the truck like swerving down the road and everything else. And, that's pretty much where the movie ends. So it ends on a comical note. Now, This movie did not get good reviews when it came out. When it first came out, a lot of people hated it, and a lot of people thought it was just exploitative. It just thought it was trashy, didn't really hold any value or anything as entertainment or anything like that. Um, I mean, obviously, this is meant to be a movie that I mean, the sexuality and the nudity and everything else obviously would have is supposed to appeal to the men in the audience, but the idea of the story of a woman who comes to Vegas and you know basically ascends, rises to the top, only to realize that it's gonna destroy her, and she tries to regain her soul. I think that is the element that is supposed to really appeal to women. But like I said, when this movie first came out, it did not get a lot of good reviews and everything else. But over time, I think this movie's kind of become one of those, what they call so bad it's good movies. And this thing has actually gained kind of like a midnight, kind of like Rocky Horror revival. They do, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's like Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's like the movie has this thing, where you go to see Rocky Horror Picture Show in theaters. It's an event. People go dressed up as the characters. People recite the lines of dialogue back to the movie. People, bring in like squirt guns and stuff like that. People sing along with the music and everything else. And this movie is having something of a similar effect. It's like people have gone in and they just, watched the movie, and I think they've quoted the lines and things like that. I don't know about dressing up as the character. It would definitely be interesting if you see women, dressed up like Nomi there, walking up and down the streets and everything else. That would be interesting. But yeah, the movie kind of, like I said, when it first came out, it was considered just pure exploitative trash, and over time, it's gotten more of a fan following and everything else. But overall, it's okay. It's like I said, when I first got this movie years back on DVD, I watched it several times. I didn't mind it too much, but now I got to be honest, it's like I couldn't even watch this movie right now if I tried, because, like I said, my ex girlfriend, she watched this thing over and over and over again, and I mean literally to the point of like she would watch the movie from beginning to end, and as soon as it was over, she would start right at the beginning and watch it all over again. So it's like, yeah, on the one hand, I am glad to have the Blu-ray and the DVD combo and stuff, and but at the same time though too, it's just I just really can't really watch this movie anymore. But it's not a terrible movie. It's just there are movies with this kind of storyline, like a girl wanting to make it as a dancer. I mean, you think of other movies. You think of movies like Step Up or Honey or something. Movies that have done that storyline kind of better than this has. But of course, this here, you got the exploitative nudity and everything else. But I do kind of agree, though, that kind of the real scene stealer in this movie is Gina Gershon. A lot of people have talked about, Elizabeth Berkley, a lot of people talked about, yeah, she's hot, but her acting is atrocious. And it's like, there are moments in the movie, it's kind of like, you could kind of understand what they're talking about. I mean, especially like the scene in the pool where she's having sex with the guy. She's going all over the place, doing all that. That was way too much. Paul Verhoeven really should have reined that in. But yeah, just some of her performance is a bit rough to take. But anyway, Kyle MacLachlan, he's good, but I mean his character is kind of just he's just kind of an asshole schmuck type. Not much to him. It's like you see the work that Kyle MacLachlan has done in like David Lynch films, like Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, things like that. He's done way better work. So you just kind of feel like he's a little bit wasted in this. But yeah, kind of really really overall the best performance goes to Gina Gershon in this, and she's kind of she's sexy, she's kind of like really like lively and everything else, and so yeah, she kind of really takes cake. But ultimately, yeah, I mean Showgirls is definitely a movie that you want if you want to have a nice movie erotica movie collection and stuff like that, and this will do it. You want nudity, it's in there. You want sexuality, it's in there. So, but yeah, it's just overall, it's not a great film. I say it's mediocre at best, but it's okay. I mean, just like I said, I can't watch it. I know I keep saying that, but Maybe one day I might do it again. But anyway, yeah, we pretty much talked about Showgirls. Now a real cult film and definitely with a real cult following and stuff. So that's about it. Um, if anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I'm sorry if I went on too long, and I really do hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't bore you, or I hope it kept you entertained. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I do weekly review videos. I do, shelf by shelf of my movie collection. Do haul videos, all other kinds of things. I'm always trying to find new ways to be entertaining and to make my channel fun to watch. So, yeah, this is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. And again, I thank you for watching. Please come back. Have a good night. Bye bye.